All right, so in this video, we're going to go over questions 28 to 36. So the first one we have here is a geometry question. In geometry, you need to know this specific formula. It's going to be asked one way or another. So it's going to be the total degrees that a polygon has. And remember, polygon just means many sides. So 180 degrees times n minus 2, where n is the number of sides a particular polygon has. So in this case, a hexagon has 6 sides, okay? So we're going to do 180 times 6 minus 2. Okay, so that's going to be 180 times 4. That will give me the total degrees for a polygon. Okay, so turn on your Desmos graphing calculator on the test nav and input 180 times 4. Okay, in this case we have 720 degrees. Now that's really important just because it'll be nice to know what's the total, right, for this hexagon. However, what I'm more interested in is how about what is the individual? Okay, so what is each one of these interior angles? Okay, well, that one's going to be really easy if you have the total degree. You take the total degree and then divide it by how many sides. So you divide it by 6 in this case. So divide that by 6 and we get 120. So each interior angle here is 120 degrees. 120 degrees. However, it looks like this 18-inch bisects the hexagon, meaning that we split it into 60 degrees here and 60 degrees there, okay? Now, you should note that a triangle is 180 degrees for the total amount of degrees, right? So you can easily just use the same formula. 180 times 3 minus 2 is just 180 times 1, which is equal to 180 degrees for a triangle, okay? So if I have 60 degrees here and 60 degrees there, that's 120. 180 minus 120 degrees gives us another 60 degrees, okay? This is 60 degrees. So in this particular situation, this is considered an equilateral triangle, okay? So if I know that this is 9 and this is 9 as well, 9, 9, that means the outer part of the triangle is also 9. So this right here is 9, 9, 9, 9, 9, and 9. So because I'm just interested in the perimeter, I just multiply 9 by how many sides does the hexagon have? By 6. So 54 is my answer. So it's A for number 28. Okay. All right, next one. Tanya earns $34,000 in her first year in her job, so $34,000. She is given a raise of the same dollar amount each year, so second, third, and then it looks like in her fourth year, she earns $38,080. What is the total of Tanya's earning during her 4 years at the job? Okay, so there's some consistency here, okay? So how I would like to approach this is, what is the difference between her last year and her first year? So this is just a subtraction problem at first. So I'm trying to look at the slope. So remember in Algebra 1, it was like y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Here, I'm just trying to find, in this case, what exactly is my y values. So let's go put that in the calculator, see the difference between those two, the start and the end for my dollar amount. So 38,080 minus $34,000. If I subtract that, that gives me $4,000 and $4,080. Okay, so that's the difference between her first year and her fourth year, okay? Now, how many times did Did she get a pay raise? Let's see, 1, 2, 3, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and divide the $4,080 by 3, okay? So it looks kind of similar to this formula, the slope formula. So y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So this is my, this portion right here is my y, and this 3 is my x, okay? So if I were to go ahead and just divide that all by 3, so 4080 and divided by 3, I get 1,360. So every year, this is how much she's going up by, okay? And they want the total, so 34,000, and then we're gonna add $1,000, $1,360 to that. So 360. Please use your calculator if you're not really good at mental math. So 35360 plus that 1,360. The next number would be 36720, and then you add another 1,360 to that, and then we hit that $38,080 at the end. Okay, so our goal is to add all of these up, and then that's going to give us our answer. So 34,000, 34,000 plus 35,360 plus 36720 plus 38080. Okay, so final answer here is $144,160, and that is C. Okay, so answer for number 29 is C. All right, next one. So number 30, this is a very conceptual kind of question. So in the standard X and Y coordinate plane, so I would just, on your piece of paper, just draw something. How many points are 5 coordinate units from the origin? So the origin is 0, 0, right here, smack down in the middle, where X and Y axis intersect. Okay. How many points are there 5 coordinate units from the origin? Well, here's one of them. That's 5 units away, right? How about here? That's also 5 units away. This right here is also 5 units away. And as well as this is also 5 units away, okay? In fact, right here is also 5 units away, right here, right here, right here, okay? So this makes a circle, if I can draw it better, okay? So more specifically, 5 units away is just when the radius of a circle is 5 units, okay? There's a second part to this question. It says, and also 2 coordinates units from the y equals 0. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and highlight that y equals 0. So y equals 0 is when your x value is, let's see. So y equals 0 would be right. So this is when x equals 0, right? So y equals 0 has to be, let me put it in green, right here. This is y equals 0. So y equals 0. It's asking us, it also has to be 2 coordinate units from the line. Well, 2 coordinate units from the line, I would say it would be right here and right here on the negative side. And then for the positive side, right, these 2 points right here, 2. So this would be 2, this would be 2, this would be 2, and this would be 2. The only reason why this would make sense is because 2 plus 2 equals 4. 4 is less than 5, so definitely there should be a point here and a point here, a point here and a point here from, that's 2 units away from y equals 0, okay? So how many points are there that satisfies both conditions? That would be 4. 4 points satisfy this condition where it's 5 units away, but also 2 units away from y equals 0, okay? So let's move on to the next one. So here is another geometry question. We have a triangle, and in this triangle, A is less than B, and B is less than C, okay? Something to take note is that your angles for a triangle correspond to how big the side is as well, okay? So the bigger the angle, the bigger the side. The smaller the angle, the smaller the side, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and just draw a triangle. It doesn't have to be like really neat. It's just you need a visual, okay, to see this. So A is going to be my smallest, okay? I'm just going to put third, okay? That followed by B. B is going to be the one in the middle. So this is the second, okay? And then C is going to be my biggest. So this is going to be first, okay? We're asked to list it from least to greatest for the sides, okay? Well, least would be the third one first, so CB is going to be the smallest side, followed by CA, and then AB would be my largest side, okay? Because C is the largest angle, okay? So let's compare that to our answer choices. So just to point out, CB and BC are the exact same thing, okay? So we can automatically cross out A and B. Those aren't answers. And then the only difference with C and D is the middle is AC and AB. Well, I wrote it down as CA, but that's the same thing as AC. So the answer here would have to be C by default, okay? All right, let's go to the next one. Number 32. So here we have a word problem. We have to try to translate this over to an equation so it's much easier to do the math, okay? So this person sells exactly 4 kinds of pies. They have apple, they have pecan, they have coconut cream. I'm just going to write that as a C, and then they have peach. Write that as an H, okay? You do not have time to write down the whole thing. Just use variables, okay? Of the pies he sold on Thursday, 1/4 were apple, so 1/4 apple, 1/2 were pecan, and 24 were coconut, and 8 were peach, okay? How many total pies did they sell on Thursday? Okay, so right now, it looks like just a bunch of numbers, but we are going to try to make this into an equation of some sorts so that we can solve it. Because right now, we don't know what 1/2 or 1/4 is. We're trying to find the total. So as you guys know, X is usually what we input, okay? So whenever we have an equation, X is what we input usually. Could be any variable. But what I really want is my Y. That's the total, right? We don't know what the heck the total is, but that's ultimately what I want. So let's focus on that. So Y equals something. Well, 1/4 right here is 1/4 of Y. So I'm going to rewrite this as 1/4 Y, as well as this 1/2. It's 1/2 of the total, okay? Plus 24 plus 8 equals, well, they all add up to that total, so Y. Okay, when I combine like terms here, I get 3/4 y plus 32 equals y. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and isolate y by itself. So minus 3/4 y on both sides. That takes care of the y on the left. So I have 32 equals 1/4 y. And at this point, you'll start to see, oh, I'm going to get my y if I just go ahead and multiply both sides by 4. So y is equal to 32 times 4, which is 100. Let's just make sure by putting in the calculator. 32 times 4 is 128. Okay, so it is D. Okay, this question really is just assessing whether or not you can translate a word problem into a function that makes sense. So just remember, y is my total. Okay, and if it's telling you, well, I got a fourth of the total and a half of the total, just put them as y. Okay. Okay, let's move on to the next one. All right, here is another geometry question. This one is really assessing whether or not you know that opposite angles have the exact same. Okay, so in a certain quadrilateral, so quad just means 4. So you have 4 sides in this case, okay? So two opposite angles measure 3x plus 5. And if they are two opposite angles, they're equal to each other. So it's 2. So 2 times the 3x plus 5. The other two opposite angles, because if it's 4 sides, there better be 4 angles, is going to be x plus 3. What is the value of x? Well, you need to know that a quadrilateral is 360 degrees. Now, I know just because that's what like a square, a rhombus, and all the quadrilaterals total up to. But you can also use that formula that we just used for question 28. So 180 times n minus 2 equals the total degrees, okay? So 180 times 4 minus 2 is going to be 180 times 2, which is 360, okay? This thing right here, this formula is super important, okay? You need to know this formula, 180 times n minus 2. That's it, okay? You can use it a lot in these geometry questions. So this all adds up to 360. So distribute the 2's. So we have 6x plus 10 plus 2x plus 6 equals 360. Combine like terms, so we have 8x plus 16 equals 360. Subtract 16 on both sides, we get, what is that, 300 something. So 360 minus 16 is 344, so 344. We want that to be divided by 8. So divided by 8 is 43. Okay. Be aware that I put a parentheses just because if I did 360 minus 16 divided by 8, notice how that's not going to give me the answer. I have to tell it, hey, I need you to do the 360 minus 16 first and then divide, okay? And I did that by just putting the parentheses because order of operations tells us parentheses has to go first, okay? And then divide by that 8, and we got the answer is 43, okay? So that is my x value. All right, we're almost done. Number 34. Okay, so when it comes to sequence, if you see this keyword, sequence, I would highly just encourage you, just use Desmos. I'm not even going to do the math here. I'm just going to straight go to Desmos because I'm not going to try to make this longer than it needs to be because you remember, each question should take you about a minute, okay? So the first 4 terms of the sequence are shown in the table. Cool. I'm just going to immediately start writing table on my Desmos calculator and entering my x value as the sequence in which that comes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, okay? And my y values are going to be 2, 3, 7, and 16. Okay, so if I look at my Desmos graphing calculator, I know this kind of looks like a particular type of equation we see a lot in Algebra 2, but just to be safe, let's look at all the different types of regression. This is linear. Notice how the linear regression line does not really touch each point, so it's not linear. Doesn't look right. For quadratic, it kind of does touch it, but like notice how like it's like missing them by just a little bit. And if I look at my r squared, it's like 0.99, meaning that it's pretty good at predicting what's the next value, but I could do better. Let's go check cubic. Notice how here my r squared, my statistics, is 1. And so when r squared equals 1, that means it's a really good predictor of what your next value is going to be, okay? And notice here, using a cubic regression, it hits every single point that was given to us, spot on, right? And now it's asking us, what's the 6 sequence? Well, I guess I could just go ahead and just scroll all the way up to 6, and 6 is about 57. Let's see, let's go down. Yeah, so about 57. So the answer is B. Don't overcomplicate it. Just put it in the calculator, okay? That's all I have to say. If you see sequence, immediately put it into your table on Desmos, okay? Like, do not overcomplicate it. It's just literally telling you just put it in the calculator. All right, next one. So, let's see. So here it's basically asking you if you know what the definition of integers is. So integers is just a fancy word for whole numbers, okay? So what are my whole numbers, or how many are there between the numbers 65 divided by 6 through 75 divided by 2, okay? So I don't know what those are, so let me put it in decimal form, okay, using this calculator. So negative 65 divided by 2 is negative 32.5, okay? And then, let's see, we have 75 divided by 2 is 37.5. So how many numbers, whole numbers specifically, integers, are there between negative 32.5 and 37.5? Well, the first number I'm going to hit here is going to be, let's see, what's right below this? Be negative 32. That's the first one. And then I'm going to try to get to 37. Okay, so for this one, let's see. Wait. 30, this should not be 32. I'm sorry. What did I? Because 60 divided by 6 should be about like 10, so that's not right. Let's quickly, 65 divided by 6 is negative 10. Sorry about that. So this is about 10.83. So the first number you'll hit here is negative 10. Okay, so how many numbers, our whole numbers, are between negative 10 and 37? Well, isn't there like 10 numbers here between negative 10 to 0? And don't forget the number negative 10 is also included there. So that's like 1. And then to get from 0 to 37, let's see, isn't that 37? So when you add up all these numbers, 11 plus 37 equals 48. That should be C, okay? So not too hard of a question. It's just really telling you, hey, do you know what a integer is? Integers are just whole numbers, okay? They don't care about decimals. I mean, if there is like a decimal a number after the decimal, that is not an integer. Whole numbers only for integers. Number 36 is another vocabulary question. During a particular experiment, 2 events, A and B, can each occur. Events A and B are mutually exclusive. So this is a fancy word of they cannot happen at the same time. So not the same time. So not the same time. What is the following probabilities that is 0? So something to take note, that probabilities range from the number 0, meaning not at all, to the number 1. Now we can translate this to percentage, so it's 0% to 100%. You cannot have a probability over 100%. It's just impossible. It's just 0% to 100%, or if it's in decimal, it's 0 to 1, okay? So if A and B cannot happen at the same time, right, it has to be D, because if it happens at the same time, Well, if A and B was the event, then that has to be 0 because it cannot happen at the same time. Again, this is a vocabulary question where it's asking you basically, do you know what mutually exclusive mean? Okay, mutually exclusive, that means that you have to, they have to be excluded, okay? They can't happen at the same time, okay? That is question number 36.